Today I'm going to show you how to crochet this squishy cat ball, and you're going to need lightweight chenille yarn and a 3.5mm hook. And we're starting with a magic circle, so take the short end of the yarn, wrap it around in an X formation around your fingers. Insert your hook into the right strand, over the left strand, pull it through and twist around your hook. And you're just going to use your right hand to pinch around that intersection. Grab the longer working end of your yarn, and you're going to yarn over and pull through to chain one. And now you've successfully completed your magic circle. So if you pull on the short end of the yarn, it'll close the loop and you can open it as well. And at this point, I'm going to start working single crochets into the magic circle. So I'm going to insert my hook in the circle, yarn over and pull through. And then to complete my single crochet, I'll yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. So that's our first single crochet. Now I'm just going and doing my second, inserting my hook, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over and pulling through both loops on the hook. And so I'm going to continue working single crochets into the magic circle until I have 6 single crochet. So this is my third. This is the fourth. That's 5. And that is 6. So once you have 6 completed, I can show you how to count. So there's these little V's on the side, these 2 loops that kind of look like V's, and that's how you can count your stitches that you've made. So I have 6 there. And I'm going to pull the short end of the yarn to close the magic circle. Once I do that, we can begin working in the round. So I'm just finding that first stitch closest to my hook. I'm going to insert it and make a single crochet. But this time I'm going to put 2 single crochet in the same stitch. So that same stitch I just made a stitch in, another single crochet, and that's called an increase. And I'm just going to grab my stitch marker and mark that first single crochet that I made in the round. So that first set of loops that I just made in the increase. And then for the rest of the round, I'm going to continue making increases in each stitch. So I'm just showing you here 1, 2. Now in the next stitch, I'm going to make another 2 single crochet. Alright, and I'll continue doing so for the rest of the round. I'll let you continue watching in case you need to refer, just to get used to that single crochet pattern. Now I'm making my final increase of the round in the stitch before the stitch marker. And once I've done that, I'm just going to count how many stitches I've made. At this point, you should have 12. Alright, so you have 12. And I'm going to work on the next round, so I'm going to remove that stitch marker, and I'm going to make a single crochet in that spot. So 1 single crochet where your stitch marker just was, and then I'm going to replace that stitch marker in the single crochet you just made. So this marks the beginning of every round. Okay, and now in the next stitch we're going to increase. So putting 2 single crochet in the next stitch, And then in the following stitch, we're going to do 1 single crochet again. And in the next stitch, an increase. So in this round, we're just repeating the pattern of 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 1 single crochet, 1 increase, until your stitch marker. Okay, now that you've put your increase in the last stitch before the stitch marker, you're going to remove it and work a single crochet into that spot. And of course, replace your stitch marker at the beginning of the round. And in this round, our next stitch is going to be just a single crochet. And then in the following stitch, we're going to put an increase. And I'm going to repeat that pattern of 2 single crochet, so 1, 2, and then an increase. And we're going to repeat that for the remainder of the round. At the end of the row here, I'm just counting and making sure I have the correct number of stitches, which I'll show on the screen. Going to remove the stitch marker, insert a single crochet, and replace the stitch marker. And in this round, we're going to do 3 single crochet and then an increase. So in those next 2 stitches, I'm just putting a single crochet. And then in that following stitch, an increase. So here's 1, 2, 3, and increase. And repeat for the rest of the round. Now that we're at the end of the round, just count to make sure you have the right number of stitches. And now you can replace your stitch marker after you put that single crochet at the beginning. And the next 3 rounds are going to be pretty straightforward. We're just putting 1 single crochet in every single stitch. So no increases here, just 1 to 1, put a single crochet in every stitch. So I'm at the end of the round here, and you should kind of see it's starting to make this curved form. And we're going to do the same thing for the next round, just 1 stitch in every stitch. And of course, remember to replace your stitch marker at the beginning of every round. And this is the last round of just the single crochets. And I'll meet you at the end. Alright, we're at the end of that round, and I'm going to start by putting a single crochet where that stitch marker is. Replace your stitch marker at the beginning of the round, and then I'm going to do 2 more single crochet. So here's 2, and here's the third. And now I'm going to show you how to do a decrease. So we're basically going to be doing a single crochet with 2 of our stitches, so it's a little bit different. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, insert your hook into that next stitch, yarn over, and pull through, and now you should have 3 loops on your hook. And we're just going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those hooks. So you can see we have 1 stitch placed in those 2 adjacent stitches. So now I'm going to do another 3 single crochet as normal, and then I'll show you the decrease one more time. So insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, insert it into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through. You should have 3 loops, and yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So I'm going to continue that pattern of 3 single crochet and a decrease all the way around. And this next row is going to be another decrease row. So I'm going to put 1 single crochet at the beginning. I'm going to replace my stitch marker. And I'm going to insert another single crochet. And then we're going to decrease. So this round is going to be 2 single crochet and a decrease, and repeat that all the way around. Alright, coming on to our next row, we're going to insert a single crochet into that stitch marker place. Replace your stitch marker. And now we're going to go straight into decrease stitch. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over and pull through all 3. And then we're going to do a single crochet and another decrease. So for this round, you're just repeating 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, all the way around until your stitch marker. Now at this point you'll see that the hole at the top is pretty small, and I'm just showing you here, you've got that tail tucked inside. So we're going to want to start stuffing with our polyfill. So I like to just grab a little bit at a time while I'm stuffing the sphere, just to make sure nothing gets too lumpy. Now, once it's pretty firmly filled with the polyfill, we can continue into our next and final round. So now this is going to be a row entirely made up of decreases. So once you remove your stitch marker, you're going to insert your hook in that first stitch and the next stitch, and that makes a decrease. And I'm just going to mark that stitch right there and continue decreasing till the end of the round. And in our last 2 stitches, our final and 6th decrease. So once you complete that, I just like to cut a long tail, and I'm just going to slip stitch, so just pulling through both loops and then pulling through and closing our work. So make sure that knot is nice and secure. And at this point, if your ball still has enough room for filling, you can add your final bits of polyfill to make sure it's nice and firmly filled. And now I'm going to show you how to use your darning needle to close the sphere. So just thread the end of your tail through the eye of the needle. And I just like to weave across basically. So you've got your 6 stitches all the way around, and I just like to insert it in one, go across and insert it in the one directly across from it. And then just kind of work my way around that circle until it's nice and closed. And then to make sure it's nice and secure, I'll just insert it through a loop that's closest. And I won't pull it all the way through, I'll just leave a little loop and I'll insert my hook through it to make a knot. And then for even more security, I will weave it through into, kind of the side of the stitches. So I'll insert it through the other side. And then you can see there's 2 V's for every stitch, or 2 loops I should say, that make a V. I'll just run my needle through those V-shaped loops to secure the end of my yarn in the stitches. And this is the best way that I've found to secure your ends, just so they don't come unraveled. And I'll pull it through, grab my scissors, and then you can just use your needle to kind of felt it back in there. And there's the sphere part of the cat complete. So I'm going to show you how to do the ears now. You're going to insert your hook between the 4th and 5th row, so counting each concentric row. I'm going to attach my yarn just by looping it around the hook and pulling it through. And I'm going to hold it nice and taut so I can make some chains. So holding it nice and taut there, I'm going to chain 4. So yarn over, pull through, that's 1 chain, 2 chains, 3 chains, and 4 chains. And now to complete the ear, we're going to introduce some new stitches. So the first one, we're working into that 2nd chain from the hook. It's just a single crochet, the same stitch we've been using. And in the next stitch, we're going to do a half double crochet. So the difference here is we're going to start by yarning over and then inserting our hook into the chain, yarn over and pull through. And now that you have 3 loops on your hook, you'll yarn over and pull through all 3. So that is the half double crochet completed. And now we're going to do a double crochet. So similarly, start by yarning over and inserting your hook into the chain. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through, except this time we're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through those last 2 loops. All right, and just make sure you pull on that working end so that the ear lays nice and flat against the head. And I'm going to count between the 2nd and 3rd rows. So right there between row 2 and 3 is where I'm going to slip stitch the ear to the head. So we're just going to yarn over and pull through to make our slip stitch. And then you can cut a long tail, and then I just like to yarn over and pull through again. And be sure to tighten that knot nice and secure. And that's the first tier completed, and we're going to do a similar thing for the other side, except we're going to start between the second and third rows. So inserting our hook between the second and third round and introducing another new piece of yarn by looping it around the hook and pulling it through. And once again, just holding it nice and tight against the head, we're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to do the same thing. So in that second chain from the hook, we're going to insert a single crochet. And in the next chain, we're going to do a half double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And then we're going to do our double crochet in the next chain. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Tighten that working end, and then insert your hook between the 4th and 5th rows. And yarn over and pull through your loop to make a slip stitch. Cut a long tail of yarn again, and then yarn over and pull through and make a knot. And that's your second ear complete. And now I'm just going to show you how to weave in those ends. You're going to do basically the same thing you did when you closed the ball. So just thread it through the eye of the needle. And here I'm just gonna stick it through the adjacent hole and just poke it out somewhere where you can weave it through some stitches. So I just went through the back, and I'm going to insert my hook and thread it, or excuse me, insert my needle and thread it through those V-shaped loops to secure my ends. And once again, just insert it back, pull it through, and then you can just cut your end and then felt it back in using either your finger or the darning needle. So there you have it. You've got the head and the ears, and now we'll move on to the face details. So you're going to take your embroidery thread and your darning needle, and you can really do whatever face you want. I'm just showing you an example. So once you know how to actually thread the needle through to make different shapes, you can kind of do whatever you want. But here I'm just starting with the nose. So those 2 stitches in the middle, I'm just pulling the needle through. And I'm just going back in through that place that I came from to make a horizontal line for the top of the nose. And I'm going to put my needle out where I want it to come out next. So as you can see, that made a horizontal line, and now we're going to make a vertical line connecting the nose through the middle there. And next I'm going to do the whisker, so I'm just planning where I want the whisker to start, and that's where I'll exit the needle. So you can shape your whiskers however you want. You could go up if you wanted it to be diagonal, but I'm going to just go straight across because I want my whiskers to be kind of straight. So I'm going straight across to the left, and then I want a second whisker beneath it, so I'm just exiting it right below. So there's that first horizontal whisker, and then I'm just going to make another one directly beneath it that's parallel. And then I'm going to exit on the other side of the head to make the other set of whiskers. So I'm just mirroring what I did on one side on the other. And sometimes if you pull the thread through too tightly, it can kind of hide the line. So I'll just take my needle to kind of loosen it up like that. And then finally, we're going to do the eyes. So I'm just planning where I want my needle to exit to start the eye. And for the eyes, I'm just going to do kind of just a straight up and down. But you can do different expressions. You can have kind of a triangular shape for like a happy face. You can do a horizontal line to do a sleepy cat. It's really up to you what sort of expression you want to give the cat. And for the eyes, I like to go over the line a couple times. So I just did 2 loops for the eyes instead of 1 like I did the other features, just to make them stand out a little bit more. So you can see that's 1 loop. Then I'm doing another loop around the eye. And since that was our last feature, I'm going to exit where that thread is kind of sticking out from the beginning there. And I accidentally tangled it up, but that's okay. So once you have that completed, you can pretty much just cut the ends of your yarn, or thread, excuse me, and you can make a knot and then just weave in your ends. For the thread, I just kind of like to pull it through because sometimes if you weave it through, that black will end up showing on the outside and you don't want that. So here I'm just pulling it through and felting it back inside. And now it's complete. So you can just kind of mess around with your needle if some of the features are kind of poking out. But once you get it to a place that you like, I really hope you enjoy it. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Feel free to reach out with any questions about the pattern. And thank you so much for watching.